Namaste and good morning. Let's start the class with some prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhu Bhuva Swaha, Tatsavitra Varenayam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat, Asto Ma Satgamya, Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya, मृत्योर्मा अमृतम गम्य ओम सहना भवतु सहना भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहि तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहि ओम शांति 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 ओम. We are towards the end of this short but deep scripture, which is called Narada Bhakti Sutras. It's about the Bhakti, the love, devotion for God. Sometimes we think Bhakti is just going to the temple, light the lamp, sing some bhajans, and we are done with it. But over here, Narada is giving us in detail that, hey, that is important. Rituals are important, but at the same time, rituals, with the help of the rituals, with the company of the great people, there should be a purity in your mind and heart also. And this purity doesn't come automatically. This is a sadhana we need to do. And that's why in verse number 78 we saw, he talks about ahimsa, satya, shoch, daya, asakti, all these things. So virtues like non-injury to others, truthfulness, cleanliness, compassion, faith in the Lord, he says should be cultivated consistently. So we got to watch our behavior, watch our thoughts, watch whether we are getting pure or not, because we want to merge with the ultimate pure. So that means we have to have our own mind and heart and intellect, and of course the body also pure. So then in 79 we saw, he says, always free from all mental anxiety, sarvada sarvabhavena nishintatai. So always free from all mental anxiety, the Lord alone is to be invoked and sought after. Bhagwan eva bhajaniya. And sarvada really means with all our layers of personality, all factors of our personality. So always, at all times, in all conditions, in all places, with all one subhav, wholehearted devotion, let the Lord alone be worshipped, quietly, serenely, with a composed mind. So that's why it's very important to cultivate those qualities, because if we don't have a ahimsa in our mind or in our personality, then we really cannot do what he's telling us to do. If we don't have a compassion in our personality, if we keep on worrying, if the anxieties are in the mind, then how can we connect with God all the time? How can we love God? So think about it deeply. These are not just the words to recite or memorize. These are the qualities we need to cultivate. So now let's start our class with verse number 80 today, where he is hinting the fruit which comes from this kind of a bhakti. So if we do all this, what will we gain? Sakirtiye manaha shigra eva avirbhavatihi anubhavyati cha bhagatana. Sa means he. So this devotee who has raised the temperature of that love for God to this level. Kirti mana, when invoked, shigra, speedily, very fast. Ev means indeed. Avir bhavati, reveals. Anubhavyati. Anubhavyati means to realize. Cha means and, bhagatan, the devotees. So that means makes the devotees realize his true self. So anubhavyati cha bhagatan. When invoked, he indeed reveals himself and makes the devotee realize his absolute nature divine. So this is the outcome. This is what happens. This is called Kripa, Prasad. So that's where the God's Kripa, grace, comes into the picture. So when through true bhakti, the Lord is invoked with the devoted, it could be a bhajan, kirtan, it could be a chanting, it could be a japa, it could be a meditation, or it could be a combination of all. But when the Lord is invoked, the whole being of the devotee comes to be exposed in ardent invocation of him. Because there's an intensity of the relationship, intensity of love. The Bhagat wants to associate only with God, with the infinite. And that's how gradually the Bhagat gets transformed. And he discovers that he has attained the very divine attributes. He is worshipping the oneness. Because we talk about God, who is God? All loving, all caring, eternal, unmoving, all blissful. Then you start to see those kind of a transformation in you too. No matter where you are peaceful. No matter what is happening, you are calm, collected. So when we worship the Lord, invoking him with our whole personality, by our constant contemplation, our mind is automatically turned towards him. Turned towards him. Right now, we are sometimes turned towards God, and most of the time we are turned towards the world. This kind of a Bhagat is turned towards the God all the time. Because this is the truth. This is not separate from us. It's already there. This is the illumination behind every thought. We are the Atma. God is everywhere. And with this contemplation, with this kind of a transformation, we have to uncover ourselves. Our Atma is covered, the light is covered, and we are not familiar with it. It's almost like if the key is, we think that key is lost. But all along it was in our own pocket. Or we think that necklace is gone, but somebody says it's right in your neck. It's not anywhere else. So the same thing happens that we don't know. This is the ignorance. Okay, that's why it's called the divine revelation. It just reveals with the help of God. So Atma, the self, the God, Brahma, truth, is ever with us. Ever with us. So we need to remove the dirt, remove the ignorance, so that truth is shown to us. But in this verse, basically what he is saying, sure, our part is to do the sadhana, but it is Lord himself who gives his faithful devotee the experience of this absolute. Experience of this unchanging truth. Because we all can say, a devotee can say, I know God, I saw God. So theoretically we can say that, But the experience of this is bestowed upon by the grace of God. So when the equipments are transcended, there is no instrument to know it, then we understand. This is always there. And this is the term anubhavyati. So because of his own compassion, makes the devotee experience him, anubhavyati. So we cannot make effort for this. We can make effort just to remove this ignorance. Experience is already there. It's almost like when we eat food. Cooking, eating, putting it in our own mouth, that's sure, that's our job. But from mouth all the way down to get absorbed, assimilate, that's God's job. That's why the sadhana is only up to certain level. Beyond that, the experience is grace of the God. We find this in the Puranas also. Dhruva, a little boy, he stands on one leg in front of God. God says, I'm here. Open your eyes. Dhruva says, no, I'm not opening my eyes. God even blows the conch and tells Dhruva that I have come. He still refuses to open his eyes. He says, no, no. Many times you have fooled me. I have been cheated. I thought you were there, but when I opened my eyes, you were not. And that's how my mind got distracted. Now I understand you are both inside and outside. Why don't you come within? Come within and reveal yourself to me. Come into my own heart. So this is like in the Puranas, those stories, sometimes there is a dramatization symbolically, but this is what we need to have, the subjective experience. A subjective experience, our truth, we need to experience it. So at that moment, when we are experiencing it, it's like effort is not the seekers anymore. Responsibility is not the seekers anymore. God himself helps his devotee to see him, to experience him. He reveals himself to him. He gives that highest experience of God realization. That's the God's and the Guru's job. So these examples from the Purans, they are objectification of the spiritual idea. So with the help of the stories, even though it's a history, it's not just a story. Those are historical facts. Those great devotees, they experienced it, and that's written in those books. So in other words, this equipment of ours, we need to transcend. Because only then the time will come when we feel it, we will really experience it. So anubhavyati, this term is very a deep term. So truth is self-evident. It is suggested by this term anubhavyati. So he makes us experience him. All the greatest bhagats, they went through this. He who is a true bhagat withdraws from these finite experiences and contemplates on the infinite reality, beloved of his heart. And for this, we do need to do the sadhana. We need to do the tap also. We need to enhance our devotion. Do it constantly. Because they say the devotion is a spiritual medicine. Develop love for God. Flaws in our personality, the negativity in our personality, they will melt away. melt away. Whether we do it with chanting, hearing, remembering, whatever we choose, or maybe a combination of all this. Okay, but kirtan is primarily people use initially the kirtan. So that's why he used the word kirtiyamana. It's a primary sadhana in the beginning. Okay. So now in the next verse, he further gives us the beauty of this bhakti. He says it's so great. It is the greatest of anything else. He says, Tri satyasya bhakti reva griyasi, bhakti reva griyasi. Tri satyasya. Tri means three. Satya means the truths. So of the three truths, bhakti rev, devotion alone, griyasi is the greatest. And then he repeats it, bhakti rev, devotion alone, griyasi is the greatest. Of the three truths, devotion alone is the greatest indeed. Devotion alone is the greatest. Just to emphasize this statement, this declaration he is making, he repeats it again. So it's almost like a paragon of devotion. Very emphatically, Narada is saying that of all the three truths, it could mean the three paths, the bhakti, karam, jnana, these are the three paths. It could mean the three times, past, present, and future. It could also mean all three levels of our consciousness. So three, it can be seen many different ways. So this vocabulary is chosen in this sutra deliberately lends itself to amplify the significance of the statement. So three truths. It could be in all these three ways, or it could be just whatever you want this to be read. So it's readily available for everyone. Everybody is equally fit right away to start practicing it. We saw that in the earlier verses also. He said for the jnana, you need to do tapasya. For karam also, you need the body. But for bhakti, everybody knows how to love. We got to just change the object of our love. Instead of loving the world, we got to just switch it to God. We all know how to love. So we don't have to cultivate any other quality to love God. So devotion alone indeed is the path that was, is, and shall ever be the best for all. So in all conditions and mental attitudes, in all circumstances and situations, in all environments and challenges, bhakti can be practiced. You might be wondering, then some people say, no, this time is best. This direction is best. No. God is in every direction. God is present in all times. Because certain rituals, some people who do the karam kand, they even put God to sleep. That doesn't mean the God is sleeping. It is just like a personal, they personalize God, that my God is sleeping now. I'm going to draw the curtain. That is just to have a personal relationship with God, but that doesn't mean the God sleeps actually. So that's why the Narada is insisting a special glory of this God. And then extra special emphasis when he repeats devotion alone is the greatest. Because theoretically we see that some idea could be very beautiful, very great, but it doesn't have enduring significance to us when we try to apply it in our life. or when we grow into it, we may not find that kind of a beauty. But over here, by emphasizing it again and again, he's saying, no, this is the greatest. I will say it again. This is the greatest. So Naraji, knowing fully well this, how great this bhakti is insisting it, that we should cultivate it too. So declaring it, that this is a best path. In the Bhagavad Purana and in other scriptures also, we see the transformation of the greatest Jnani into the greatest Bhagat. And we are reading Monday Bhagavad Purana. You'll see that either next Monday or the Monday after, how this Uddhav, the greatest Jnani, the biggest Jnani of his time, Lord Krishna wanted him to know that beautiful nectar of the Bhakti. Because if you know that Uddhav was a friend of Lord Krishna and a relative of a cousin of Lord Krishna too. In fact, he looked almost like a Lord Krishna. His height, his color, his demeanor, he was very close to Lord Krishna. And he was a descension of a Brihaspati. So the biggest devotee of that time. But Lord Krishna wanted him to know that how great the bhakti is. He wanted to teach Uddhav the beauty of the Premanand. Because Lord Krishna knew that Premanand is bigger than the Brahmanand. Brahmanand means a Jnani. So, because a Jnani thinks that I know everything. He doesn't want to know anymore. And if Lord Krishna would have taught him that Prem is higher than the Jnana, he wouldn't have understood. So that's why one day Lord Krishna told Uddhav to go to Gopis, to Vrindavan. Lord Krishna said, please do me a favor. There are those Gopis who reside in Vrindavan. They have developed a sentiment for me. I am so busy in Mathura and Dwarka. Please go there. They really have a tremendous pain in their heart. Go there and give them some knowledge. You have so much jnana. Uddhav said, which knowledge? Lord Krishna said, the knowledge which you talk about. Aham brahmasmi, soham. All that knowledge, why don't you talk about? Whatever you talk about, give that to them. Tell them, why are you crying? You are God yourself. The whole world is Brahm, etc. Uddhav thought that this is an ordinary thing for me to do. Because Jnani is always looking for a chance for discourse. They always want some audience whom they can preach. And he thought all these gopis will become my disciples. Uddhav said, there is your mother Yashoda also. Should I go see her also? And the Nand Baba? He said, sure, go visit them also. Tell them I'm so busy over here with all the duties of my being over here. Please do tell them that I'm indebted to them forever. Uddhav was going from Mathura to Vrindavan. He was going along river Yamuna. In all the houses, there was a stream of going and meeting Yamuna. But there was a stream which was the biggest. He asked someone, which house is Nand Baba's and Yashoda? They said, this biggest stream is the one which will take you to their house. When he reached there, what did he see? They are constantly shedding tears. So the water which was flowing into Yamuna was the tears of Yashoda and Nanda Baba. Those were the tears of love. But the rest of the houses also were there. They had little streams, but not as wide. He felt humbled. He said, what kind of a love they have? All they are doing is sitting and waiting and crying for Krishna. He thought that I'm a great Jnani. But look at the nature of their heart and my heart. They are humble. And then he visited the gopis also. He started giving them some pravachan, the gyan. He said, why are you crying? God is everywhere. Why are you crying? Think about Om Brahmasmi and Soham. So when Uddhav completed his lecture, he thought that I have done a great job. Gopi said, Uddhavji, your lecture was superb and praiseworthy, but we have some questions to you. Uddhav said, what is the question? Because even anybody who gives the lecture, they love when the questions are asked too. There have been actually thousands of poets. They have written, it's a long samvad between Uddhav and the gopis. The questions they asked and how Uddhav answered. So it was like a conversation between the biggest Jnani and the biggest devotees. That is the samvad. So anytime you get a chance, do go into that literature also. Gopi said, with what should we think of God? He said, with mind. Gopi said that mind is not with us. He said, where did it go? He said, they said Krishna took it. And they also said in one of the conversation, the mind is material. How can a material mind think about the divine God, divine Krishna? And he started fumbling. He couldn't answer these questions. Then they asked another question. You are saying there's only one Brahma in you, in us, everywhere. Why are you giving pravachan? You are talking about Advaita, non-duality, but you live in Advaita, the duality. And Uddhav did not have any answer for that either. Gopis knew inside why Uddhav was sent to them. And they told him, they said, Krishna is right here with us. He said, he's in Mathura, but Gopi said, he's here. You cannot see him because you don't believe in the personal form. But wherever we look, Krishna is there. He doesn't have the strength to leave us. Because we bind him with that strong thread of love. He cannot leave us. He said, because we are abla. We are helpless. He cannot leave the helpless gopis. He is here with us. Shyam tan, shyam man, shyam hi shyam. And then Uddhav realized, I only used to say that sarvam khal vidam brahma. And these gopis, they are really experiencing it. They are really living it. From there, Uddhav got changed. He went there to teach them, but he learned from them that how high is Bhakti compared to the Gyan. And he just kept singing, Hum unke hue, wo hamare hue. It's just like a constantly, he just kept singing. And he said, now I understand. I have become his and he has become mine. He was so overwhelmed with this bhakti. He was so intoxicated, so overjoyed. They say from Mathura to Vrindavan, when he came, it took him 2 hours because it's only 12 kilometers. But it took him 6 months to go back from Vrindavan to Mathura. Why? Because on the way back, he was hugging every tree, every bush, every creeper. He was just shouting, Shyam Sundar, Shyam Sundar. So this is the intoxication of Bhakti. And there are other lot of beautiful incidents when he goes over there and he hugs Krishna also. A lot of poets, they have written about that also. Uddhav and Krishna Milan too. And Uddhav, when he goes back, Lord Krishna said, ask for a boon. Uddhav said, yes, I will ask you for a boon. And this boon is in the Bhagavatam. We'll read about this also. Uddhav said, in my next life, don't give me a human birth. Make me a blade of grass in Vrindavan. So I have the dust of the gopis and my heart is to receive the dust of their feet. Tradition has it that Uddhav became a blade of grass, where people do the parikrama, part of Govardhan. There is a temple of Uddhav also. That's why Narada is saying, Bhakti is the highest. Jnani can become very arrogant. Bhagat is the humblest. And that is a quality. So that's why Naraji 3. Satya se bhakti reva griyasi bhakti eva griyasi. So we got to cultivate this bhakti also. Love for God. It's not only the easiest, it's the greatest also. Now in next verse, it looks like a long verse, but if you look at each term over here, very significant. Gun mahatamya asakti, rupaha sakti, pujaha sakti, smarnaha sakti, dasya sakti, sakya sakti, vatsalya sakti, kantaha sakti, atam nivedana sakti, tanmyata sakti, param viraha sakti, ekdah api ekadashaha bhavati. Beautiful verse. So many different ways we can cultivate our relationship, our love with God. We can use all of them if we want to, but if we want to use one according to our own nature, our own inclination, just strengthen. The idea is to strengthen the relationship with God, love for God. Gun mahatamya sakti, love for glorifying his qualities. Gun means qualities. Rupaha sakti, love for his divine form. Roop is the form. Pujaha sakti, love for ritualistic worship of him. It's like doing the arti, doing the diya, doing the seva, just letting go of your own personality while doing the puja also. Puja sakti. Smarna asakti, love for constant remembrance of him. Just like we remember the worldly things, worldly people, they remember God constantly. Dasya sakti, love for doing service to him. Sakya sakti, love for friendship to him. Vatsalya sakti, love for the Lord as one's own child. Kantaha sakti, love as that to a beloved. Kantaha means beloved. Atma nivedan sakti, desire for a total self offering at his feet. Tanmyata asakti, love for complete absorption in him. Tanmyata, completely absorb yourself. Param viraha sakti, love as expressed the pang of separation from him. Viraha. How come I don't see him? God, you say you are everywhere. How come I don't see you? Last night, I got a call from a devotee. He said that. He said, I do sadhana every day, couple of hours in the morning, but I don't see him yet. In Gita, Lord Krishna says, you'll see. How come I don't see? Parama viraha sakti. Ekda api do one. Ekad ekadashadha bhavati has 11 modes of expression. So ek means one, ekadash means ek and dash, that means 11. Love for glorifying his qualities, gun. Love for his divine form, love for worshipping him, love for remembering him, love for doing service for him, love for friendship in him, love for the Lord as one's own child, love as that to be beloved, love for a total self-offering at his feet, love for complete absorption in him, love as expressed in the pang of separation from him. Thus, though love is one, okay, this is important to understand. Ekda api, love is one, just like a God is one, but God can be seen in different forms. The same way, love is one, but it is expressed in 11 different modes according to Narada. Okay, that's why I said that you can choose one according to your own mental, the way you can express mentally or physically or intellectually, but at the same time, if it changes here and there, that's okay too. We can use all of them too. So these are all modes of devotion, or you can say the highways of Bhakti has 11 lanes, even though Bhakti is one. It's like a super highway. 11 parallel approaches to move the traffic fast with the ease, with the no travelers hitting each other. Nobody calling that this path is better than the other. All are equally great. So let's look at each and every one of them. The first one, he says, glorifying the qualities divine of the Lord. He says this is the path of devotion. Narada himself is glorifying. Vyasji glorified in the Bhagavad Puran. Shukdev ji, Vyasa's son, he glorified it to Parikshit. So there are many, many great saints. They have traveled on this path. Tulsidas ji, Kabir ji, Surdas ji, all of them. Their fire of love, constantly fed by the repeated remembrance of the glories and virtues of Lord. You don't want that fire of love to get dimmed. You want that fire of love to keep burning so that you got to keep on adding more and more fuel there. So that's why glorifying the qualities divine of God. Then he said, attachment to his divine form. That's also a path. A devotee can reach the highest experience this way too. Attachment to the form. How beautiful my God is. How beautiful his eyes are. How kind his eyes are. How beautiful the feet are. The hair is. Whatever is dear to you. Whichever form is dear to you, use that form to increase the love for God. Path of serving. It has been pursued through constant performance of devoted ritual and worship of the Lord. This is called a loving seva. This is the path which Bharat chose. When Ram went, what did Bharat do? He didn't want to sit on the same throne. He put the sandals of the paduka of Lord, and he worshipped those padukas. And he himself stayed. He said, my Lord is walking on this earth without the shoes, anything in the feet. I cannot walk on the same. So he just stayed underneath this earth. He said, I am lower than him. I cannot walk on the same earth. That is a Paduka Puja. Then another lane of this love highway is Prahlad and Dhruv's Smarna Asati. Constantly remembering Prahlad and Dhruv, small boys, never ceasing remembrance of the Lord, and they realized the God. They just kept repeating that mantra and kept remembering God. They just wanted to see God. They wanted to become one with God. They didn't want anything from God. They just used that. Then what did Hanuman, Vidur, what did they use? Dasya Asat. So this love can also be reached by the unquestionable reverential devotion of the servant to the master. I am here to just do what my Lord tells me. No question asked. Pure heart of the seeker. Just I'm going to do as I'm told. Then Sudama. Sakhya Asakti. Attachment to the Lord as a friend. That's another path. The attitude of Arjun was like that too. Sakha Bhav. Then Lord Krishna's twins, they had the Kant Bhav. Attitude of that relationship between devotee and the Lord as a beloved. Kant. On this path, the devotee considers herself or himself to the Lord's beloved. Sita was the same. We find faults in Ram, why he abandoned Sita, but Sita never did. Kant Bhav. Then Vatsalya Bhav, that is a Kaushalya, Devaki, Yashoda. So a devotee may reach this great state of supreme love through devotion of parental love. If you can love Gopal Krishna as your child, then he is saying Atam Nivedana, total self-offering at the sacred feet of the Lord, complete surrender. Attitude of Hanuman to Ram. Ready to give up his own life for the Lord. His life was not as important to him as doing the seva for Lord. Total surrender. So this is a way by which devotion can be invoked, maintained, and developed. Then Tanmyata, absorption into the divine essence of the Supreme Being. This is another path. We have stories of Sanat Kumars, the sons of Brahma, Yajnavalkya, and a lot of other yogis. This complete absorption into God. So bhakti is developed by constantly trying to feel one's essential oneness with Him. Oneness. Without any distinction between the creator and the creation. Devotee and the Lord. Tanmyata. And then the last one he says, Param Viraha Asakti. A devotee may feel the burning anguish of separation. Constantly remembers Lord because of his absence. How come he's not with me? This is how the gopis felt when Krishna left first. They have that Param Viraha Asakti. That anguish of separation reached to that level where Krishna showed himself there everywhere to them. So the anguish of separation makes us remember him more often and more intensively than in any other mode of approach described above. Because you really cannot breathe. You see, I cannot live. I have to have it. See, we have this Param Viraha Asakti with the worldly people, with the worldly objects. But over here, he's talking about just convert that into the Lord, love for Lord. So even though the love is one, it's pursued by different ways. It's not only 11 modes of love that are available. In fact, devotees in different love modes can have any other way, as long as you are connecting completely with God. Because no two lovers are the same. According to their nature, they each come to express their devotion and their love their own unique way. So according to Narada, 11 different ways. But you can come up with more if you want to. As long as the goal is that I want my beloved. I want to experience, I want to see him. I want to become one with him. Okay? Whichever way. Okay? So we rarely find devotees repeating mechanically the path pursued. So it's not a mechanical thing. Initially, maybe mechanical, but pursuing on the path mechanically, ultimately, our whole bhav should be there. Okay, it has to just we should remember we are trying to merge with him. The sentiments decorate your devotion, enhance your devotion. Okay, so other scriptures they talk about Navada Bhakti, 9 kinds. But over here, Narada is talking about 11 ways. So devotion is a vast ocean. Devotion. Okay, so these are like a gems you bring out to use and merge it with you. Let's end the class here today, and next week we'll finish this beautiful scripture. There are only a couple of verses left, and then we can have a discussion also. Which part you like the best? Anything you want to add or subtract from it? We'll just have a longer discussion next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate Om Shanti 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 Om.